In the murky, high-stakes ecosystem of global cybercrime, few names have struck as much fear into the hearts of C-suite executives and IT security teams as Cl0p. While many ransomware gangs operate like chaotic, fragmented groups of hackers, Cl0p has historically functioned with the cold, calculated efficiency of a modern, multinational corporation. They are not merely keyboard warriors, they are a professionalized criminal enterprise, and the MOVEit crisis served as their most audacious, sophisticated, and damaging performance to date. To understand why this event became a watershed moment in the history of cybersecurity, we have to look past the technical vulnerabilities and examine the evolution of the group behind them. Cl0p rose to prominence not by being the first to the game, but by refining the business model of digital extortion. For years, the standard ransomware playbook was simple: encrypt a company's files, lock them behind a digital wall, and demand payment for the decryption key. It was a disruptive, blunt force instrument. However, Cl0p, along with a handful of other elite groups, realized that this model was flawed. If a company had good backups, they could simply wipe their systems and restore their data, ignoring the ransom entirely. Cl0p identified this weakness and effectively pioneered a new, more lethal strategy, the extortion-only, or double extortion, model. Instead of just locking the data, they started stealing it first. Now, even if a company could restore their systems, the threat remained: pay up, or we dump your most private, sensitive, and proprietary information onto the public internet. This strategy shifted the burden from the IT department to the boardroom. A server being encrypted is an IT problem. A public leak of employee social security numbers, confidential legal contracts, or patient medical history is a reputational and regulatory catastrophe. By the time the MOVEit vulnerability was discovered, Cl0p had already spent years perfecting this psychological warfare. They were ready to execute a massive, coordinated strike that would target not just one organization, but hundreds simultaneously. The MOVEit Transfer breach was the culmination of this evolution. In early 2023, Cl0p didn't just find a bug, they found a structural flaw in a piece of software that was ubiquitous in the corporate and government world. MOVEit was designed to move files securely. It was the digital equivalent of an armored courier. Cl0p exploited a zero-day vulnerability, a flaw unknown to the software developers, to gain unauthorized access to the database layer of the application. The precision was surgical. They didn't have to launch noisy, sweeping attacks across thousands of networks. They hit the supply chain. By compromising the software itself, they effectively walked through the front door of every organization that used the service. What followed was a masterclass in criminal logistics. Once they were inside, they didn't just smash and grab, they systematically exfiltrated terabytes of data. And then came the name and shame phase. Cl0p turned their dark web leak site into a digital billboard of despair, posting the names of victims one by one, counting down the days they had to pay before their data was released to the world. It was a pressure cooker designed to force payments, and it worked with alarming efficiency. They hit government agencies, pension funds, global insurance companies, and even public school districts. The sheer volume of victims made it impossible for security firms and law enforcement to handle the response in the traditional way. The MOVEit incident highlighted the devastating reality of supply chain reliance. Modern organizations often outsource critical functions, payroll, benefits, data storage, to third-party vendors, assuming that these companies have top-tier security protocols. The Cl0p operation proved that the weakest link in your security chain is rarely your own front door, it is the front door of the vendor you trust to manage your data. It forced a massive, painful reckoning across industries, leading to billions of dollars in cleanup costs, legal settlements, and a complete re-evaluation of third-party risk management. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Cl0p operation was the quiet period. For weeks after the initial breach, many organizations didn't even know they had been compromised. By the time the breach was widely publicized, the data was already gone. This realization created a sense of helplessness among security professionals. You cannot patch a vulnerability that has already been exploited, and you cannot recover data that is already sitting on a criminal's server. It transformed the cybersecurity landscape from a game of defense to a game of damage control. The aftermath of the MOVEit crisis led to a global manhunt and increased pressure from international law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and Interpol. Yet, Cl0p demonstrated a level of resilience that continues to baffle analysts. They are not a single, centralized office that can be raided. They are a distributed, resilient network that understands the value of the data they steal. They don't just sell it, they leverage it. They understand that in the 21st century, information is not just currency, it is power. Ultimately, the Cl0p and MOVEit saga is a reminder of the fragility of our digital infrastructure. We have built an incredibly complex, interconnected world where we rely on silent, invisible background services to keep our economy moving. Cl0p didn't just break software, they broke the assumption of trust that keeps the internet functioning. They showed us that in an era of sophisticated, industrialized cybercrime, security is not a status you achieve, but a continuous, exhausting, and often losing battle.